Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the DJ Force X podcast. My very special guest this week is Cherry Duesbury from the band Defensive. Welcome, Cherry.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely my pleasure. Yeah, obviously we're here today to talk about your guys' new album, which is called Shadowlight, which we'll get to in a moment. But what I like with most of these bands, because I sort of discovered you guys I want to say last year. I'm getting confused on my years, but it was
Mhm.
definitely 2023. I was at the Takedown Festival.
Oh,
Um,
were you?
I was,
Oh,
I was,
goodness.
I was. It was a long time ago. I know.
Did you see it?
I saw a bit of your set. Yes, yes. And
Okay.
I
Oh,
was,
interesting to know.
I was there on behalf of Total Rock. So when they were sponsoring the outdoor stage and everything, and I was working for them. So I
Mm.
sort of tried to get around as many bands as possible. Um,
Mhm.
I caught like one song here, two songs there of other bands and all that kind of stuff and all that. It was a great festival. Um, but yeah, no, that you guys sort of came into my sort of like vision at that point. And yeah, I've sort of been tracking you for a little while now. Just sort of like through like I get obviously the promotional like press releases and all that kind of stuff come through. Um,
Mhm.
and you guys were part of that, and you're signed with Long Branch Records,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
who I've started to have bands of theirs on the show. I had guys you're just about to go out on tour with, Rising Insane. I had um,
Oh, awesome.
I had Aaron on back in August on the show, and that was very enjoyable. Um, but yeah, I'd like to get I'm getting to my question now. Uh, I'd like to get an origin story for your band because you sort of I know you guys have been around since around about 2014, 15-ish. But I hadn't heard of you until last year.
Hmm.
I'd like
Yeah.
a little
Go
bit of
on.
background. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a weird one. We've had a few people kind of, say that they had no idea who we were or like didn't even know we were existed and had been a band for a while. And yeah, we actually unofficially started in 2013. That's when I first joined
Okay.
what would then become Defenses. But Defenses, as an entity, as a band, yeah, officially started in 2014.
Cool.
And we were just a bunch of young young adults who wanted to make music together, and so we were doing it all ourselves and just kind of threw together a kind of initial EP.
Yeah.
um Went through a few different member changes and kind of just elaborated from there. Where yeah, I think the new album Shadowlight that's come out with Long Branch Records is actually our third album.
Hmm.
Um, we've done two albums and two EPs in the last kind of 10 years leading up to this new era. And yeah, I think probably before Will joined the band, so Will, who's keyboards and screams,
Hmm.
he joined the band in 2018, which is the year after we released our first album. So, we were still very new, very
Yeah.
fresh, kind of get off the ground and kind of build an audience and build a little bit of yeah, just a fan base and get out and play gigs and stuff. And it did take a while because we have essentially been doing this ourselves the entire time. It did take a while to kind of, build that and get a bit of a repertoire going and actually get some decent shows booked, supporting some bigger bands across the UK. So yeah, it felt like it really did take a while for us to kind of get our foot in the door, for I'm sure a number of reasons. But certainly after Will joined the band and we kind of changed direction a bit, we released our second EP, Thoughts That Keep You Awake. Um, and then from there, it's been kind of a roller coaster of figuring out exactly what we want to do and what kind of direction we want to take things in and how we want it to sound. And it wasn't until the end of our second album cycle, so the end of the In the Balance cycle, it really aligned with a lot of different things happening. It aligned with me moving to London and starting a new job and like kind of starting a whole new chapter of my life, essentially.
Yeah.
And the same for some of the other guys in the band. And that obviously, aligning with signing to Long Branch and kind of putting together a whole plan for this Shadowlight album. Um, yeah, it does feel like it has been a bit of a bit of a transformation of our band. And way more people are discovering us now, and we're hearing a lot of, "Where have you been all my life? How have I never heard of you before?" Which is quite cool.
Oh, it's not. It's nice. I mean, I mean, obviously, it's nice when you've, I guess, because you've honed your sound and people are hearing you now. Obviously, you do have like your diehard fans that have probably been there since the beginning,
Hmm.
and they love the first like releases, all that kind of stuff. But like discovering you guys now, and you've sort of hit a point where I'm guessing you're relatively happy with what you're doing. Um,
Sure.
and it really tell. I mean, the album is fantastic. It's a great. It's out now, everyone. If anyone's listening right now, we're not live. It's just if anyone's listening right now, they can go off and listen to that album. Um, but yeah, I mean, so like I say, like catching you guys at this point of your career, and like with many bands, I do like to sort of like with some bands, I've managed to get on very early with
Hmm.
their development and sort of see them progress through the things. But with you, I went back and listened to your last album and
That is.
um, EP and stuff like that, and you can definitely hear like the way you've kind of like you've changed things up.
Hmm.
There's a
Hmm.
difference in the sound. There's a certain maturity with it. Um, the a lot of bands go through, like, and you've sort of, and not discovering you until this point, you've kind of hit me with this absolutely fantastic piece of work in Shadowlight, um which is great, and I'm loving it. And what, like, with obviously where you're from in the UK, obviously we are in the UK here, but Hertfordshire, is that roughly
Hmm.
where you were kind of formed?
Yes,
And
yeah.
that's always been like, for me, like back in the day, it was always like a very sort of, I guess the word is a fertile ground for bands. A
Yeah.
few sort of bands have come out of that county,
Yeah.
especially within the metal scene. You've got bands like obviously Enter Shikari,
Yes.
Sixth. If you want to go back to no longer around anymore, Aconite Thrill, and things like that. That obviously those were bands that I kind of were involved with back in the day.
Hmm.
Some I played shows with and all that kind of stuff. But that was always an area, like there was like there was a couple of like good venues around there. I think Hitchin had club.
Yes, that was my one. So yeah, before I moved to London, I was actually up in Letchworth, Garden City. That's my
Oh, okay.
hometown.
Yep, yep.
And so Club 85 in Hitchin was my local venue for
Mm,
my entire, childhood and growing up, teenage years.
nice.
Um, and yeah, we actually got to play it probably 5 or so years ago now. We got to play it, and that was just amazing for me because same, I saw Enter Shikari in that
Yeah,
venue, and the Eyes of a Traitor, and a bunch of other like smaller local metal bands.
yeah.
So yes, to be able to play that venue ourselves was really, really cool.
I
Love
bet.
that venue.
Yeah, I love that. I played there with who was it? Not a Hertfordshire band, but a band called Electric Eel Shock.
Okay, nice.
They're like a Japanese rock and roll band. I say they are. They're exactly that, from Japan.
Mm.
Absolutely batshit crazy acrobatics and everything like that. But yeah, no, fantastic venue. And I know they were sort of going through a bit of a thing recently, trying to save it or someone trying to buy it.
Yeah.
You know if that's gone
I
through or anything? I don't know if you'll keep in touch.
haven't heard. I haven't
No.
heard. But
Okay.
hoping,
I'll have
hoping
to
it's.
Google that and find out. Because I saw that pop up on there. But no, that's fantastic. I mean, yeah, it's a great little venue, that one. And what was the other ones up there? There was like the rugby club that used to be there and stuff as well. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
there
then
was,
there's like
I mean,
is it the Green Room in Welland? Was that
yes,
one?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, fantastic area.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, let's talk about the Starlight record that you've just released. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I'm loving it. There's some absolutely great tracks on there. I love Gold in the Dark,
Thank you.
In Spirit, Breathe It In as well. That was another one I've noted here. Um, and the title track as well. Actually, the whole album. I didn't skip it. That's usually a pretty good sign. Um,
Great.
um, but yeah, how did that come to be? How long was that album been in your in your back pocket, if you will?
So about 2 years roughly.
Yeah.
It was funny because yeah, we have been working. Obviously, we were working on this album, this product for a long time, and developing these songs. We started working on these songs before the second album cycle had even finished. We'd already had a few demos, um, and we kind of went through a big old writing writing experimentation right after that album, and we actually ended up writing about an album's worth of songs that we ended up essentially just discarding because, it wasn't quite hitting, it wasn't quite the right, sound or vibe. And The Curse was actually the first demo after all of that, kind of experimental writing
Yeah.
that Cal came to us with. And as soon as we heard it, we were like, okay, yeah, like this is it. We need to hone in on this. This is what we want to be doing now. Um, Around the same time, as I mentioned, I was in the process of moving to London. I was going through a pretty low period, and so I was doing a lot of kind of self-reflection.
Hmm.
Um, Also, kind of in general, connecting a lot more with my spiritual side. That's something that happened over the 2 years of COVID and lockdown.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was doing a lot of kind of studying and research into this concept that I had come across, which is the concept of shadow work, and
Yeah.
reading a lot about Carl Jung and his kind of philosophy around all of that stuff. And I found it really fascinating, and it kind of really hit home to me. It kind of I realized just how strongly I had been ignoring and repressing parts of myself and parts of who I was and parts of things that had happened to me that had kind of resulted in me being the person that I was.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a bit of a um I don't know, it was a bit of a wake up call, I suppose,
Oh,
to, the life that I was living and the life that I wanted to be living and what it kind of took to actually get there. And the main thing that it really took was taking a cold, hard look at myself in the mirror and shedding light on those things that I have been, kind of ignoring and
yeah.
repressing and hiding. Um, and so, yeah, I was really kind of very deep into all of that stuff. And so all of the lyrical inspiration was coming from that. I came up quite early on with this idea of this character, this kind of dark, shadowy version of myself.
Yeah.
And for anyone who is a Buffy fan, I'm a massive, massive Buffy fan. I've
Yeah.
been, my whole life, and knows about Dark Willow.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to do. I was like,
Okay.
you know what? It is time for me to have my Dark Willow era. How do we make that happen?
I like
Um,
that.
so yeah, I came up with this concept of Shadow Cherry, which is kind of the shadow version of myself,
Yeah.
to be like the main character, and kind of what's the word, mascot for this whole kind of era and this
Yeah.
album, and kind of using that to really delve into and provide a visual side to the themes and stories that we were kind of going for and talking about. Um, and Callum has mentioned in previous interviews that he essentially was quite inspired by this character. So a lot of the music, you hear it has kind of a more creepy and moody and kind of horror-centric tone to it. And that again is a vibe that we kind of um, caught onto with The Curse. So from the first kind of song, and definitely worked into the rest of the songs. And, we wanted that to kind of be a focal point sonically. So it all kind of developed from there.
Oh, amazing. I mean, I haven't heard of shadow work before. Like as in like on for that sort of like what you've explained to me of obviously there are various sort of like therapies you can go through where you do reflect
Mhm.
upon yourself or reflect upon the situation that you're in. But no, I've literally just brought up shadow work in front of me here just to sort of see
I
what
know.
why you were talking and stuff like that. But that's pretty cool actually, and I can now see it in some of the song names as well. Like
Yes.
going through it and sort of
Yeah,
seeing
and
some
it's
of the bits
funny you
you've hit
mentioned
on.
Gold in the Dark. That is one of my favorites. It is one of the first songs that I wrote where I was specifically talking about this concept. And
Okay.
that is not a direct quote, but it is a quote essentially from Carl Jung. Um, I think it's something like, yeah, I'm not going to try and
Right.
paraphrase right now
It's all
because I
right.
don't
All
have
right.
anything in front of me. But yeah, it is essentially about, finding the gold in the dark and kind of realizing that there are little nuggets of positivity and, truly great and beautiful things that can come out of our darkness. That's the
Yeah.
general idea. Um, and so, yeah, it was hugely inspiring for all of these songs.
Amazing. Amazing. I mean, I'm just reading the little bit that I've got in front of me here. It does sound very good, actually. Like I might actually look into it a little bit. But no, I mean, it works when it's come to the album and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I can see now from like the song names that you've got on there and everything that I can see where your journey goes. with
Mhm,
it
mhm.
through the album, which is fantastic. I mean, anyone sort of like taking a deep dive into this record, like that's the way you want to do it. It's not just like a
Yeah.
bunch of singles, um, which is always good. Like I like bands that can create an album,
Mhm.
like a piece of work, like they say, you're talking like whether it's an art piece, a product, or whatever you want to call it. But actually creating this, I mean, was it 10 song? Yeah, 10 songs you've got into this sort of complete works under one kind of like story or one kind of story arc, if you will.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very personal to you because you're actually going through it as
Yeah.
well. It's not just something you've picked out a random kind of like mythological um
Mhm.
thing and kind of like just created this like concept from it. It's like something you're going through. It's actually obviously I'm assuming it's helping you.
Oh,
From
100%.
yeah, good.
Yeah, it
Um
is a very real thing that, anyone can kind of go and Google and research, which is all I did, to be honest.
yeah.
And kind of start to go through this kind of journey for themselves. It was an interesting thing because I kind of feel like that was happening. I don't know, around, late 2020, early 2021, when we were all kind of going through the global pandemic that we were going through. I don't know. It certainly feels to me, and I've kind of heard and seen other people say the same thing, that there was some kind of shift that happened generally, and
Mm,
people are kind of connecting a lot more with our place in the earth and the universe, and um our our place kind of within our own lives. And overall, I feel like there's been a lot more introspection happening over the last few years, and a lot of people are being a lot more honest and open and comfortable being who they are. Um, and a lot of that, I think, has to do, like, to be in order to really be comfortable with who you are, you have to be accepting of all of who you are. And so
yes,
it kind of really ties into that a lot. And yeah, I have already had, a few fans kind of reach out to me and say that they've been inspired by the songs to kind of look into this for themselves and have started going on their own journeys, which is just absolutely incredible to hear.
that is incredible. I love it when stuff like that happens because it's just it's not like it's not what you set out to do, but it's just that byproduct of it, and it gives you that kind of there's like it just adds another level to your art.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It really does. And
you
it's
know
so inspiring as well
yeah,
for me.
exactly. Well, that's fantastic. I mean, everyone go listen to Shadowlight now. It's fantastic. um it's out on all the streaming platforms. You've got physical products of them as well. I do like to encourage people to buy physical products from the bands just purely because you do get more for it. I don't like to talk money, but it's what keeps you guys going. Obviously.
Well, but also just for the sake of the actual products, like I'm really excited by the physical product that we have for this album. The artwork was done by an incredible friend of ours called Patch Creative,
Mm,
and the booklet, it literally goes on the journey with you through the songs. So the booklet starts, and like the Curse, Golden, the Dark, Perish all have dark, smoky backgrounds. And as you go through the booklet, it kind of gets lighter until you end with the shadow light with a white background. So literally the whole concept of going from dark into light is reflected in the physical CD that you get and the vinyl as well, which I think is really, really cool.
yes, I was going to say you got vinyl as well, which is very much a love of mine. um Obviously, I don't have my camera on, but behind me there are a set of turntables
Mhm.
that are in relatively constant use these days. But I do like to go out and buy vinyl, so I like to try and encourage that in people because
Mhm.
I grew up with vinyl, and
Yeah.
went through CDs, got to digital,
Mhm.
but
Back to vinyl.
DJing vinyl that went out the window because
Mm.
you got to lug it around everywhere. But having it at home, doing the old scratch work and everything, it's all good. So um, but yeah, no, it's obviously everyone go buy it. It's on your website, defensesofficial.com. The vinyl is £25. The CD is £15. And plus, obviously plus postage. And you've got a whole bunch of t-shirts, patches, hats, t-shirt, all that kind of stuff. Jewelry as well. I can see a pendant on there. So yeah, people can go and buy that now, which is fantastic. And then is that are you doing a Black Friday sale on there as well?
No,
Or
we actually didn't. We didn't bother doing any kind of
oh,
Black Friday
okay.
this year.
Just wanted to make sure because I like, I just remembered what this Friday is. So
Yeah. We do have an offer on. I think it's up to 30% off the new Shadowlight merch.
okay.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, so there's some bundle deals and stuff.
Okay,
But yeah,
cool.
nothing Black Friday specifically.
Fantastic. And you've got some shows coming up.
We
Um,
do.
well, I mean, immediately you've got a show in Germany this Friday. This probably won't be out by then, but but like I say, like I said before, you're out with Rising Insane. I also had Aaron on the show. Like I say, back in August when they're promoting their album. So what else have you got coming up?
So we've got shows with Crushed by Waves next year, which we're really, really excited for. Those guys, so we first actually saw those guys at Takedown as well
Hmm.
when we played that in 2023.
Yeah.
But they also supported us on our headline show, the album release show, a couple of weeks ago at Camden Assembly. And yeah, they're just incredible, really, really energetic, really lovely guys. So we're super excited to be going out on like a proper run with them. It's a northern run,
Nice.
end of January, start of February, and we're going to be hitting up Glasgow, Newcastle, Manchester, Nottingham, and Leeds. Um, We've just announced all of the local supports for each of those shows as well, which we're really, really excited about. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then yeah, we're busy working away on more plans for shows and tours and stuff over 2025. So yeah, there's more coming for sure.
Excellent, excellent. You've got the Hammer Down Winter Militia as well in Brighton.
Yes, we do.
Coming
We
up.
have Hammered. That's our last show of the year
Yep.
on the 7th of December in Brighton. Very excited. Love Brighton.
Yes, and that's with some fantastic bands. I'm just looking on your website now. Exist Immortal, oh Bleed
Yeah,
Again.
just
Been on
Immortal,
the show
Confessions of a
before.
Traitor.
Yep,
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
that looks amazing. Brighton's not too far. I might try and make that one. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I mean that looks fantastic. I mean the tour I was going to talk about like next year with Crushed by Waves. And so this is your first time in Germany as well, like
it's
playing.
our first time going for like proper shows. So we went in the middle of September to play Reeperbahn Festival in Hamburg.
Yep.
That was our first time ever going to Germany to as a band. And that was so so fun. It was quite grueling because we drove and we're driving again in
Oh
our in
wow.
our trusty old
Okay.
van.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, this will be the first time we go for like proper shows, supporting a band. So we're very very excited. And Rising Insane are an incredible band, and their fans look just absolutely incredible and crazy. So
Yeah.
really excited for playing to play for them.
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. Well, have fun with that because I remember touring different countries and it was always fun. Like we did the UK for so many years, and then
Mm.
we hit Europe and it was a completely different animal.
Yeah,
And it was wonderful. I was just like, and then we didn't do it again. But it was one of those things where it was a real eye opener. It was like, why have we put this off for so long? You know,
yeah, yeah.
obviously, finances wise, and obviously now,
It is. It is always just comes down to finances really, and I guess who you know. And yeah, I mean, obviously with who we know, we are very lucky now that we have Long Branch. They have a lot of connections, especially in Germany, because they're a
yeah,
Germany-based label.
yeah,
Um, and just as a result of releasing music quite consistently and a lot of merch over the years, we're in a better financial position now than
it's
we
fantastic.
we have been previously, so we can just about make it out there in our van.
Yes, I was going to say
Um,
you've got the long haul. I mean, I when we
yeah,
when I played out there, it was we flew out to I
like
think it was
yeah,
Austria,
yeah.
and then we ended
Mhm.
up borrowing just equipment off the band that we were touring with. So
So,
we managed to sort of tour very light, but
yeah.
I don't know if we would have survived if we had driven it. Um, um,
Yeah,
but
we try and be as cheap and cheerful as possible, basically, wherever we can. So we've invested a fair amount into Vicky, our van, and yeah, she gets us around pretty well. But yeah, it is a lot, but it's also kind of fun. It's a little bit of an adventure, and it's the kind of touring that I've always wanted to do. It's the kind of touring that you kind of dream about when you're a kid, right?
yes,
So I am excited for it.
fantastic, fantastic. Well, I've got a couple of questions left for you, Cherry, if that's all right. And can let you get on with the rest of your day. But what I want to find out from you, this is because the question I like to jump on people with, but it's one of my like tie-up questions, if you will. But what three albums would you say were most pivotal for you? So I'm not necessarily talking about your favorite albums, but the ones you heard when you were younger, or even just like a song that you heard when you were younger that made you want to be in, in a metal band, or made you want to be a singer, or made you want to be something else in your life. What could you sort of pinpoint maybe three records?
Oh, very good question. Okay, well, the very first one that's come to mind immediately, so I'll just go with it.
Yeah, go for it.
Um, oh, what's it actually called? It's a Memphis Mayfire album.
Okay.
It's their second one, not the Sinner. 1 second, give me one
Yeah.
second. Let me
Yeah, no,
just.
no worries. Look it up if you need to. It's always the way with these things because I do like to jump this question on people. Like some people like the preparation, but
Yeah.
this question always seems to stumble a lot of people. But
Yeah. It's
you know,
the classic thing, isn't it? That as soon as you get asked something, you forget everything you know.
yeah, yeah. I guarantee if someone asked me, I'd be like, I don't know. Might
Yeah.
not. Then I afterwards I'd be like, oh no, it wasn't that album. It was this. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Anyways.
God, the amount of times that happened to me. Yeah, I found it. It is The Hollow by Memphis Mayfire.
Hmm,
Incredible album. Came out in 2001. For me, it is one of my top like classic metalcore albums of
nice.
like that kind of time. I
Yeah,
was really big on that band. And one thing that I really, really loved about that band, and especially this album, is the mix between the clean and harsh vocals that you get throughout every song. I
yeah,
really, really loved that, and I really wanted to do that. And so from the get-go, from the time when I was looking for a band to join, that was the idea that I had in my head. Like, I didn't necessarily want to be the only vocalist in the band.
yeah.
I wanted it to be a dynamic between my clean vocals and some screamed vocals. And it took a while for us to find the right person, but we did find the right person eventually with Will. Um, and yeah, I think the dynamic between the two of us works really well.
Nice.
And The Hollow as an album definitely was a massive inspiration for me when it
Fantastic.
comes to that. Um, Another one I'll mention is kind of from the the same sort of time, the same kind of era, uh, and it is Of Mice and Men. Um, Restoring Force. So that album came out in 2014. I think it was the last album with Austin Carlisle before he left the band.
Hmm,
I absolutely loved him, loved his scream, loved his voice. And again, this was a band that had a really, really cool dynamic between screamed vocals and sung vocals.
yeah.
That was a band that I followed since their first album. But I really think that that album, Restoring Force, was definitely the most like mature and polished version of that era of the band. Um, so yeah, that's definitely going to be another one for me. And then again from the same kind of time, because I suppose, all of my initial inspirations for doing this
Yeah.
came from around that kind of time, early
Yeah.
2010s. It's Brand New Eyes by Paramore.
Okay. Yeah.
Paramore Paramore have always been one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band, if I'm just being honest with myself. And yeah, I've always kind of connected and related to Hayley and her lyrics and found her incredibly inspiring as a vocalist. She is, in my opinion, one of the best vocalists in rock in the world.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, absolutely loved that album. Rinsed it from start to finish, no skips. Um, I I think that album in particular has it's some incredibly catchy melodies. And so more on the like melodic side of things, the actual like lyrical writing side of things, I am definitely inspired by Hayley and that album.
Nice.
So yeah, I think those are my three.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I mean, Memphis Mayfire, like, yeah, a band that I don't hear very much about, like, in as much as like people having it as an influence, if you will, or a moment in time. So that's quite nice because normally I get, well, I won't say what I normally get because it's sort of it's normally like because certain ages determine certain bands at that time. So I'm pushing, my mid-teens were like the first Deftones album, first Korn album kind of thing,
Yeah.
and Britpop. It's kind of the mix I had, and dance music, which was like the Prodigy, Chemical Brothers, all that. And then like when I'm interviewing people, it makes me feel old when they say Linkin Park, and I'm like, oh, that came out when I was like 21. Um,
Yeah.
Um, and or like Hybrid Theory, I should say, came out around about then. But you know, stuff like that, and I was like, oh, now I feel really old. But no, this is fantastic. I mean, of Mice and Men as well, a great band. I had their drummer on the show this year as well. They just released a new album. I cannot remember names, but it was great to actually talk to them about it, and you know, just stuff like having that band. And Paramore are a band that my kids are getting into.
Is that by any chance a result of Taylor Swift?
Yes, pretty much.
No.
I took them to go see Taylor Swift at Wembley. Um,
Okay.
they were there. My eldest actually knew who they were anyway, because they
Yeah.
heard like Misery Business and stuff on the radio and all that kind of stuff. So they were aware of it. But the younger one was very much into like, oh, this band are really good. And
Oh,
like, you know, and sort of very much getting into that and their latest album as well. Which again, I cannot remember. It was in front of me here
this
yesterday.
is why.
That's it. This is why.
Yeah.
And you know, and one of them spent an obscene amount of money on the merchandise for Paramore at the
Nice.
Taylor Swift show. They bought the really expensive jacket thing. So you know, they're a band that I know. I know that they've been around for a little while now, but heavily influential.
Oh yeah.
Like from obviously Riot album.
Mhm.
That's the sort of that was the big one, the sort of catalyst. And I mean, Haley was like, was she 17, 18 when that came out?
Yeah.
Um, I remember all these Kerangs when they were just featured, they were just constantly in those magazines.
Yeah.
Um, and stuff like that. And sort of watching this band grow up, obviously change members, all that kind of stuff, change styles, and you know, not trying to forget what they did in the past. Because I know that Taylor Swift tour, they didn't play Misery Business for the first like few shows until someone
Yeah.
stepped in and said, or I think it was actually Taylor, apparently stepped in and said, actually, you should be playing that song. Which is fine, you know. But you know, you know, again, they've matured, gone on strength to strength. You know, they obviously they're big enough to be playing stadiums on their own now.
Yeah, it's really cool because yeah, like I said, I've basically been a fan of that band from the get-go. So seeing their progression and their maturity and blow up, you know, over and over again,
Yeah,
has been awesome. And it is quite cool because they were away for a while and then they came back with this new album. And of
yeah.
course, you know, again, it just blew up because they're incapable of doing anything bad, in my
No,
opinion.
this is true.
Um,
They are very good. They are very good at what they do.
But yeah, going on the Eras tour with Taylor, I thought was a really interesting choice. I know that Haley and Taylor have been friends for a really long time.
Yeah,
Um, so it made sense from that point of view. But obviously it is very different, like, you know, fan bases and audiences.
yeah,
And it's been really interesting to watch all of Taylor Swift's fans discovering Paramore
yeah.
and kind of, you know, getting into their music and learning all about their history and kind of yeah, discovering what I grew up with.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's interesting.
this is the thing like I found with my kids, they will deep dive into support acts
Oh
like
yeah.
before. I mean, I sort of did it on a back in the day on a sort of little base, just sort of on a chance of I'd buy the CD kind of thing. I'd go into HMV and I'd pick up the support band for I use Deftones as one again. I saw Deftones at the Astoria, like one of their first London shows, and they had Will Haven supporting.
Oh wow.
No idea who Will Haven were at the time. This is like 1999, 98, 99. And I just went to HMV and I picked up, I think it was El Diablo, the EP.
Mhm.
Um, and instantly, I was very different from the Deftones, but instantly fell in love with that band. And you know, and that was where I sort of like, you know, that was my thing. But now my kids are like looking into the sort of like connections between these bands. And like my kid last night was going on something with Charlie XCX and Taylor Swift and someone else. And there was like this like connection thing. And I was like, she was just talking. She was like, as teenagers do. Um,
Yeah.
but it was just the deep dive and the knowledge that they had of these things. And you're just like, oh wow, I didn't know, you know, back in the day, I just knew these bands as bands. Didn't
Mm,
know that they were all connected and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's crazy these days. But it's good because they are discovering these bands and they're doing it their way,
yeah.
um, and it leads like it's a gateway to other stuff. Like again, like you
Exactly.
know, you
Yeah,
see these things like then like for you, things like Memphis Mayfire of Mice and Men and Paramore gateways for you into this
for
world,
sure.
if you will. Obviously, you may have had like other influences before that, but it was just sort of I always look at these like pivotal albums as the gateways for people. That's why I like to sort of find out what that album is that got them where they, you know, towards where they want to be, kind of thing. So Fantastic. But I've got one more question for you, Cherry. What are your hobbies away from music? So away from your band and touring and things like that. Do you have any hobbies?
Um, my biggest hobby, well, first of all, I'll say that my personal opinion is that I'm quite a boring person outside of the band. I
Okay.
think the
Fair.
band is the most interesting thing about me. But yeah, so my biggest is actually literally just spending time in nature. It's
Okay.
going for walks, going to parks or fields or forests. I love spending time in the woods.
Yep.
And literally, yeah, just kind of sitting there and being in nature and doing the kind of things that I was doing around the time that I had all of this initial discovery that led to this album, essentially.
Yeah.
Uh, just being sat in a very peaceful place where I can kind of be alone with myself and with my thoughts and with the part of the world that I can see. That's definitely a big hobby of mine. Um, Me and my partner have just moved into a beautiful house that has a bunch of fireplaces and it's kind of rekindled, no pun intended, my love for fire. So I am making a lot of fires in the house and making it lovely and cozy. Um, and other than that, probably, yeah, probably just hanging out, watching anything to kind of unwind and relax,
Yeah.
basically. So hanging out and watching shows or movies, or playing video games.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
kind of fun.
Oh, that's really nice. I mean, the nature thing I love. I take my dogs for a walk regularly and stuff like that. So I get to go out and sort of be out and about. But I've noticed more since lockdown that people are appreciating that more and actually connecting
Yes,
with it more.
yes, 100%.
Just
Yeah.
because they like you when it's like when you get obviously deprivated from anything and taken away from
Mhm.
anything. We couldn't necessarily go out, or as we could go out on our own, or maybe it sort of kindled that like actually being out here on my own is really nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Away
I definitely
away
feel
from
like that
people,
happened for a lot of
you know.
people.
And it was just like, I've noticed a lot of people like having that and like hiking and stuff like that as well as sort of like a,
Mhm.
a sort of pastime which they didn't have before.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. And yeah, I mean I love movies and video games and stuff, so that's always
Mhm.
good with me. And I do love a good open fire.
Yes. Oh,
That
they're
is
just
one
the
thing.
best, especially this time of year.
Oh, totally. And it's one of those things that I miss with a certain aspect of my life that we had a facility to do that, in
Mm.
the shape of relatives who had houses that had open fires and stuff. And Christmas
Um,
was always the time. You hear the
yeah.
crackling and the popping. And now I have to just have it on the television, and it helps me go to sleep at night. So
Before I moved into this house, that was literally what I was doing. I would go on YouTube and I would put on one of those 10-hour videos of a
yeah,
fire just
yeah.
going.
Yep. It's that or just like crashing waves kind of thing,
Yeah.
and but yeah, no, I love that fireplace sound and smell. And like at the
Yeah.
moment we've got neighbors that have open fires and you can tell when you go out, like when I'm coming out to
Yeah.
my little studio, I say studio, it's my garage here, and you can smell their open fire. So I get my kick from it, but I don't actually have like it in front of me. So which is all good. But yeah, cool. Cherry, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely to talk.
Yes, it's been great. And yeah, no, good luck with everything. Good luck with your tour that's about to come up, and good luck with the tour in January as well. Um, and yeah, I hope to catch you guys again soon at a show. I'll have to sort of see, like I said, the Brighton one's close, so we'll see if I can get to that one.
Yeah,
Um,
because
but
yeah,
yeah, no, cool. Well, hopefully I'll see you guys at least next year, depending on what you've got in store for us in the UK, be it a tour, be it festivals, be it whatever you might have. But thank you very much.
thank you so much. It's been lovely to talk to you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, you too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.